Jordan Rennells is a composer and sound designer who is highly involved in the J.R.R. Tolkien universe. He is the editor of the Prancing Pony podcast, which is a weekly installment of all things Middle-earth, and recently he launched a Kickstarter campaign which promised to create an immersive new audio experience to listen to whilst reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Kickstarter was a huge success, and what Jordan has delivered doesn't disappoint. We found out that Krotos was used extensively in the creation of this project, so we knew we had to speak to Jordan to find out all about his process.
I had this idea for this project, which was to create a audio soundscape to accompany you while you read the books. You put your headphones on, open up your book, and you push play and you read along with it as these sounds are happening to you. A couple of years back, I took the chapter, The Council of Elrond, and I got voice actors for every one of the 10 plus characters that are in that chapter. And I did a kind of mini version of this soundscape where I got ambience and sound effects and everything like that, and I wrote the score. And so that was kind of like a low budget test of the idea. I got in contact with John Howe, the concept designer for The Lord of the Rings. He's working on Rings of Power now as well. And so I reached out to him and said, oh, you have this art book. Wouldn't it be cool if we did an audiobook for it? If we had you read your description of the art, but as that's happening, have music and have sound effects and everything to like bring it to life a little bit more. Then the idea came to me like, what if I just take the narrator out and then just do it myself? And it actually almost works better as an experience without the narrator, because you can choose to have that or not. People like me in the Tolkien world know the story so well. They know what's going on. They know. And so it kind of evolved into this interesting other way of experiencing the story. I had already heard about Dehumaniser from Tonebenders. So I'd already seen Dehumaniser. So I used that for all of the orcs and all of the monsters and things like that. Let's listen to my friend Tyler, who did the amazing voice performance for this without any effects. Some great stuff there. So I added Dehumaniser. We had this all set up where he would feed through Dehumaniser. That would bust out to Reformer. My brain was immediately like, oh my god, there's so much I can do with this plugin. The most important and fun part comes with the use of Reformer. It takes his audio that's coming in and it shapes other sounds in the same way. So right now I have it set to fire burning and 2 different lava sounds. So what it's going to do is it's going to take the shape of his performance and shape this fire burning and lava sound to kind of emulate those shapes. My idea was, when I discovered all these plugins like Weaponiser as well, I was like, okay, the like immediate use of them is pretty obvious, but what else can I do with them? What else how can I kind of bend it to what I need? When the project was being created, I would listen to every chapter and write down every sound effect cue that might happen, every ambient environment that we're in, every weapon area that like there's battles and stuff like that. How do I approach each different thing? An example is I have a Weaponiser preset set up with a bunch of horse sounds that I can just hit fire and it'll kind of randomly give me variations of the pony that's along with them. It has a natural feel that way. Some of the cues that I put in Weaponiser are kind of horse idling sounds, and using all the randomization elements that I can. With Pro Tools, I can randomize the MIDI timing and stuff like that, and I can let Weaponiser give me like a natural sounding run of horse sounds instead of just putting samples in every time. The coolest part about using the plugins is it doesn't take much for it to sound awesome. I have a bunch of samples loaded in, and I have randomized settings on. So when I click this fire button, it plays those samples and kind of randomizes a little bit of their elements and which one plays when. So it changes based off of when I push this. It'll kind of randomly select a few for it to play, which is really cool. I've also made a kind of a nice one for bow sounds, bows and arrows and whatnot. So same idea, samples are loaded in there, and then I push the fire button. and we get these awesome arrow flyby sounds. I talked to another Tolkien fan, but military historian named Brett Devereaux, and we had a Zoom, and he was talking to me about like plate armor's not a thing. You're not going to hear those sounds. Archers don't all hold and fire at the same time, so don't do that type of sound design. Like there's a battering ram that comes up. The volume that would have. He's telling me all of these things that, like, from a military kind of history point of view, what would be accurate? And that's the kind of thing that I'm trying to think about. You know, all these kind of interesting sound design decisions of like, what's accurate? It's a fantasy though, so what's interesting still? Like when the fell beast flies by, how fast do the wings flap? How heavy are they? Are they leathery sounding? Are they, you know, all these kind of things to try and get that balance between it being kind of what we expect from the movies, but like a more accurate version almost that we want. Let's listen to it in context now.